And welcome to the Daily Space Weather. This section is about things like magnetism, Earth's geospace, and solar features. We're starting out looking at the Geospace Magnetosphere movie here for the past 4 hours. It's showing you magnetohydrodynamic pressure from the perspective of Earth's magnetic moment in space. So on the left, you're looking at the equatorial plane as if you're looking down at the planet. From the right, you're looking across the ecliptic on the meridional plane. Nothing too exciting happening there as we see a coronal hole wind stream subsiding. There is a South Pole current sheet headed our way, and we can expect to see that enveloping the Earth's potential field surface source line by tomorrow's video. The heliospheric current sheet, the plasma coming out of the sun, is oriented to a pole. By tomorrow, we expect Earth to be in a South Pole current sheet. You can see it here in red on this great National Sunspot Observatory dataset, the top view ecliptic plane field plot. So here's the South Pole current sheet. Here's the North Pole current sheet. Headed out towards stereo B, which is this spot right here. This is stereo A. And here's the GOES magnetometer data over the past 3 days. That arcjet moment is the GOES 16, maintaining its near equatorial geosynchronous orbit. Turning on its thrusters produces plasma, which could affect the data, so they list it. They're not hiding data, they're showing you the data. Next, the line of sight ecliptic plane field plot, a great three-dimensional perspective here for the heliospheric current sheet. It also shows the solar magnetogram. Let's move on to coronal holes, as we've got some activity here, some trans-equatorial coronal holes, both kinds in the earthly zone. So you can see some South Pole-oriented ones here over on the east, some North Pole-oriented ones here over on the west, as solar cycle 25 progresses. We still do largely see the solar polar fields remaining at the poles, an indication, in my opinion, that we're seeing a terminator event unfold, a plausible explanation for all the solar activity. So here's the composite view that we brought up today. This is actually 211 and 193 angstroms, and you can see lots of coronal holes, dark spots there around the equator. This is all part of the ultraviolet light spectrum. You can go get these yourself at helioviewer.org or the SDO websites or countless other locations on the internet. Ultraviolet energy there, coming from the closest star. And thanks for stargazing, by the way. Here's another view. We just brought up another one here just for fun. It's 211 and 335 angstroms. These are all ultraviolet spectra of very hot ionized iron in the atmosphere of the closest star. We'll move on to sunspots next. We've got plenty. The Wolf number was at 80 last I checked, so this will be updated soon here. The likelihood of major flares very high here, especially from sunspot 2936. If you want to see more great imagery of that, check our previous and our next videos. Smashamash.com has links to our YouTube page, youtube.com/smashamash/videos. We've been putting out 4 videos per day about the sun, the Earth geospace, and about meteorology. Again, likelihood of flares quite high, especially from sunspot 2936. So here's a close-up of it. This is its growth over the past 24 hours. It has grown a bit, and you can see the umbrae are kind of spreading apart from each other here, as the leading North Pole umbra here rotating a little bit faster than the trailing umbrae. And we'll show a full disk view also, as there are quite a few more sunspots. Here we've brought up ionized carbon, which is the 1700 angstroms. I'm sorry, that's the 1600 angstroms. 1700 angstroms is just extreme UV. Once again, most likely spot to see major flares is from sunspot 2936, the star of the star. Let's blast through some more data. We've seen about 5 C-class X-ray flares here over the past 24 hours. Don't expect to see it. Don't be surprised, rather, to see an M-class flare here. It could produce radio blackouts. Let's continue on. The proton flux, no spikes in that. No relativistic particles headed our way in the past 3 days. And when we look at the real-time solar wind, we'll see a subsiding of a coronal hole wind stream. The speed made it all the way up to about 550 kilometers per second. And now we've seen a reduction down to about 474 kilometers per second. Solar wind density about 6 protons per cubic centimeter. Everything else fairly unremarkable there on the real-time solar wind. KP index only at 1. It's geomagnetic calm conditions. And here's Earth's geomagnetic moment from the ground. So this is showing nanotesla magnetic flux density. It's all based on the space weather modeling framework, folks. It's our other geospace magnetosphere movie. We show them daily on the Daily Space Weather. It shows the most likely places for auroras and problems with power systems caused by induction, for example. Next, to keep everybody oriented as to what's going on in the solar system, here is a diagram of the solar system. Keep in mind it's not to scale. We're going to advance it 1 week to show you the 1 week forecast. There's where things will be in a 1 week. We'll have a crescent waxing moon. Here's what's going on above my head in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. We've got the moon, Mars, Venus, and Mercury rising ahead of the sun. If you've got a low horizon, you may see Mercury. You may not. That's our star chart from in-the-sky.org. Let us know what your favorite star is. Mine is Deneb, which is actually a high-mass X-ray binary. The brightest star in the constellation Cygnus, known as Alpha Cygni, or Deneb. It's known by many names. It's the tail of the swan. Göbekli Tepe is oriented to it. And let's move on to our coronal mass ejection watch. We did see a minor coronal mass ejection on the far side of the sun. Let's take a look at the view from stereo A at Lagrange 5 and the LASCO C3, which you see here on the right. You can barely even see this CME on the LASCO, but you see a pretty concentrated CME on the far side of the sun. For you new viewers, from the perspective of stereo A, Earth would be off in this orientation, and on this view, Earth would be behind you. And you can see this great CME here. Just basically a harmless light show on the opposite side of the sun. It was accompanied by a prominence on the Earth side of the sun, but no apparent CME on the Earth side. That's our Solar Features, Magnetism, and More section. Congratulations on realizing the channel exists. Don't forget to press like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. I've been your host, Dan, a.k.a. Smash-A-Mash, signing off from the Smash News Network. Least busted name in news.